It's Glenda McDonald here from the Story Finder. Sorry, Tina. I'm just doing a quick little intro because we want to make sure that when we start, we haven't cut anybody off. So this is currently my channel. We're just doing a practice session for the authors today that will be presenting at the Ontario Library Association Super Conference in February. So I'm going to step back now, and publisher Tina Crossfield from Crossfield Publishing will take over. I'm here as needed. Okay, stepping back.
Hi, and welcome everyone to the Crossfield Publishing booth at the Ontario Library Association virtual conference. I'm here to introduce one of our authors. Before we do that, I would like to ask my colleague, Isabel Armiento, if she could read the land agreement for us.
Yes, thank you. So as part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Canada, we'd like to acknowledge with gratitude and with respect the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and Atiwandaronk nations. May we honor their teachings.
Thank you.
I will get that.
There are helps for it. Okay. I'd like to introduce Phyllis L. Humby. Phyllis lives in the tourist municipality of Lambton Shores, where she ruminates on plots and storylines while roaming the beaches of Port Franks and Grand Bend. And that's during the winter months. Summers find her on the veranda in Bayfield, her laptop always in sight and stories brewing. Before surrendering her obsession for writing, Phyllis spent nearly 20 years in the lingerie fashion industry, which provided an endless proof of material for her memoir, Hazards of the Trade, published in 2020. During a trip to Newfoundland, she fell in love with the province and its people. The upshot is her novel, Old Broad Road, also published in 2020, and to be released in April, the sequel to Old Broad Road, which is called On the Rock. And as she would like to say, life experiences balance the fiction. Oh no, I'm going to have to rewrite that. There are no fairy tale endings. Okay. So I don't know if that was 2 minutes or not, but and that can be redrafted. Okay. So without further ado, Phyllis is going to do a reading from
Old Broad Road.
Are you reading from Old Broad Road or on? Okay.
Did you
go ahead?
I was going to read from Old Broad Road.
Ah.
But if you'd like me to read from something else, you'll have to let me know. Okay. Here is a short excerpt from Old Broad Road. This part of the country, 2,000 miles from home, seemed like the perfect choice when I planned an escape. Although concerned for my welfare and state of mind, my son and daughter didn't interfere when I booked my getaway. Now, God help me, I was planning more than a vacation. Traveling the shoreline of the saltwater bay along the familiar Route 60, I was convinced now, more than ever, that this real estate listing on Old Broad Road was my salvation. Old Broad Road, indeed. Mr. Howard's vehicle lurched over the mud-packed ruts, and my hand gripped the door handle. We slowed to a stop, the ocean barely visible beyond the densely treed lot. Before he turned off the ignition, the muddy driveway was tugging at the soles of my shoes. Let's check the property first, I said, without a sideways glance at the empty house. The smell of wet vegetation and seawater created a nervous flutter, like butterflies batting against my ribcage. Despite the mounting apprehension, I felt an urgent need to explore. Not waiting for the agent, I hurried to the back of the yard. Seeing the saltwater bay, overlooked by jagged rocks, calmed me in spite of the exhilaration I felt. The agent's voice interrupted my thoughts. Miss Kramer, you're not dressed for this damp morning. Let's go in now. My stomach heaved with nerves. A fear of being sick in front of this stranger was a growing worry, but there was no turning back. Chapel's Cove would be my retreat, my refuge. Despite the anticipated backlash of Dan and Darlene, I wasn't going home to Toronto. Yes, this is it. I'm sure. I nodded toward the view. His eyes widened and he stepped towards me. You haven't seen the inside of the house. That's where all the work is. 'Tis very isolated here, and I don't think you know what our winters are like. The representative's strong East Coast accent made him difficult to understand. You'd be lonely as a gull on a rock living here. His considerable weight shifted from one foot to the other, his face wrinkling into a whine. If I didn't know better, I'd say you didn't want to make a sale this morning. My voice inflected a haughty tone, one I had perfected over the years. Turning toward the abandoned house, I glanced down at my sodden canvas shoes, feeling the wetness soak through to my socks. The rain had stopped, and I closed my eyes and inhaled. The smell of the damp earth aroused a childhood memory of shiny worms inching across a wet sidewalk. Recollections of my life before I became a wife and mother and grandmother were rare. A cool, wet breeze dampened my hair, its mist settling into the deep lines around my teary eyes. I turned back to the magnificent view. During the weeks spent touring Canada's East Coast, I dreamed of living here, though never expected anything to come of it. Pretending was part of my healing process. Pretending to be alone in the world gave me solace. On the beach at night, screaming into the crashing waves, I raged against my fears. Nighttime was when I ranted and cried. That's when I felt old and unhinged. The agent ended my wandering thoughts with an attention-getting grunt and a dubious look. I plan on checking the house, Mr. Howard. Jangled nerves added a harsh edge to my tone. Turning away from the crest of the craggy coastline, I looked up at the weathered frame edifice. Clinging to the back of the house was a wooden deck atop supports from the sloped landscape. Its stilt-like structure appeared to tremble with the strong breeze. Water-drenched weeds tangled around my ankles like restraints to keep me from entering the house, which at a glance looked old and unloved, much like the way I felt. The realtor appeared relieved when I moved towards the dwelling. Seeing the decaying bottom step of the raised deck, I changed direction and led the way to the front door. Mr. Howard followed so closely behind me that I heard his ragged breathing and smelled the lingering smoke on his clothes. As a reformed smoker, the smell was neither tempting nor revolting, but something my nose immediately identified, a smell that one day would signal danger. And that's a brief look at the intro to Old Broad Road.
Wow, that was wonderful. We'd like to ask you a question, actually. Why did you choose Newfoundland as the setting for the new novel?
It's actually On the Rock is a sequel to Old Broad Road. And Sylvia Kramer, the main character, is still living in Newfoundland where she settled. The book takes place about 2 to 3 years after the end of Old Broad Road. Although each book is a standalone book, it just continues the adventures of Sylvia and the friends that she made in Newfoundland. I really, when I wrote Old Broad Road, did not have the intention of writing a sequel for it. But the first readers of my novel really were very reluctant to say goodbye to the characters and wanted to know more and hear more about this paradise and where Sylvia settled. And so then I began writing the sequel.
I've heard the sequel is very exciting.
I think the sequel definitely will keep the reader's attention. There's lots of action, lots of emotion, the same as there was in Old Broad Road. It was a very emotional, gritty read. And I don't think the readers will be disappointed at all in the sequel. I think they're going to enjoy it.
Great. Okay. So we're reaching about we've got about 5 minutes left. So perhaps if we can bring Isabel in and just have just a little discussion on, hi, Isabel. Okay. And perhaps we can talk about how all that went. Okay. So, okay, Isabel, what did you think? Oh, mute. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I was on mute. Holy. It sounded really good. I guess like maybe the lighting could be a little brighter, but that's really it. It sounded great.
Okay. We can turn it. Now, may I ask a question at this point?
Oh, yes, that's better, Phyllis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Thanks, Isabel. I could see by your expression, perhaps you would prefer me reading from On the Rock. I wasn't clear on that, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't really, well, I'll call you later.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I believe so. Yes. Actually, a little bit of Old Broad Road and a little bit of On the Rock would be delightful.
Okay.
But I'd like to show you the cover first,
Okay.
before we do that. So I'll contact you, oh gosh, a little bit later today. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah, everything is fine.
Okay, good.
Okay. Okay, so anything else? Any other comments? Because I think we have Sherry waiting in the wings here.
Okay, so hi, it's Glenda again, the Story Finder, just moderating here in between. Thanks very much, Phyllis and Tina and Isabel. I'm going to bring Sheridan into the stream in a second. And I'm going to I'm going to remove Phyllis from the stream. She can still be watching it. So thanks very much, Phyllis. So
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Sherry. It's Glenda, and I'm just gonna pass it over to Tina shortly. This is a practice session, so for instance, right now I can hear a little bit of reverb from your end, so we may have to play with that. But if you have any other devices that are on, you'll have to make sure that they're muted because there can be some feedback. Now, normally what would have happened is at this time we would have been behind the scenes in the green room, but we're actually live on YouTube right now. So I'm just going to pretend we're going live because that's what's going to happen when your session actually happens. So pretending to be going live while we're actually live is, and then I'm just going to say a quick little intro and then pass it to Tina, because what happens is when we set up when we go live, there's a little bit of a delay and sometimes it cuts Tina off just as she starts talking. So it's better to have me be cut off than Tina. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and going live. Hi, this is Glenda McDonald, the Story Finder. This is just a practice session that's taking place on my YouTube channel, which has almost no followers, so it's safe enough for us to be here. But I'm going to now pass it over to Tina Crossfield, the publisher of Crossfield Publishing. What we're doing is a practice session for the authors who will be presenting at the Ontario Library Association annual super conference taking place the first week of February. So I'm going to step back and I'm going to pass it over to Tina now.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Crossfield Publishing booth at the Ontario Library Association virtual conference. Normally it's held in Toronto, but this year I think it's being held everywhere. I'd like to start off before I introduce our author, Sheridan Rondo. I would like to pass the mic over to Isabel to read the land agreement first. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. So as part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Canada, we'd like to acknowledge with gratitude and with respect the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and Attawandarock nations. May we honor their teachings.
Thank you. I'd like to read a short bio of Sheridan. I think there's an open mic somewhere that's causing some feedback.
Yeah, it's at Sherry's end. I'm going to mute her while you do the reading, and then I'll unmute her once we're ready for her to talk. So I'm just going to temporarily do that.
Okay, great. Okay. Sheridan Rondo typed her first novel on a rented typewriter at the unlikely age of 14, a story of a young girl's angst after a family move took her away from like-minded horse lover friends. She wrote and illustrated 3 children's cookbooks while teaching cooking classes for children in North Bay and penned a local news column, Dwight News, for the Huntsville Forester in the mid-1980s. Sherry currently celebrates membership with the Muskoka Authors Association and Bayville Writers Circle. Fellow writers there brought staunch support for her love story manuscript, Dear Braveheart. 2 selections of her writing appear in the group's anthology, The Long and Short of It. Sherry enjoys public speaking and has acted both as an MC and presenter at the annual Tall Pine Tales author events in Muskoka and Haliburton. She was selected for the long list of contestants in a 2021 short story online event. Sherry resides in Bracebridge. Okay, so now, am I going to try to share my screen, Glenda?
Okay, for one thing here is that Sherry has to unmute herself now. I can't unmute her because she's muted herself.
Okay.
So,
great.
There you go. Okay. And remember, Tina, to share your screen, you use the share button beneath.
Right.
Is that what you mean? So are you using Chrome?
Yes.
Okay, so what you want to do then is share your Chrome tab or share the screen of your computer. So remember, you use the share button at the bottom, and then you just pick which window you want it to look at.
Oh. Gosh.
Now, are you trying to share her Google presentation, or what are you trying to share?
Oh, I'm sorry. Here it is. Do you see it?
Nope, not yet. So you remember, you have to hit the share button, and then you're going to have to click on something to indicate which screen you want to be visible.
Right. Okay. There it is.
Okay, it hasn't shown up yet here. Oh, here it is. Okay, no, there it is. Okay, got it.
Okay, so, right, I'm just going to, there, okay. Huh. Okay, Sherry. Now I can't see when to advance to the next one. So, but I can see you on YouTube. So if you
just tap it, Tina, it will advance to the next one I discovered yesterday. So if she gives you a hand signal or something like that, then you can, if she sort of goes like next or something like that, then that way you can just go to the next one if you like that way.
Okay. Okay. So Sherry, we probably won't get through all of them, but if you'd like to start.
Okay, I have a question right off the bat. Are these slides visible to the viewers?
Yes.
Or okay, all right.
Yes.
So
yes, and I see you. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, and I can see you on YouTube.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so raise your hand.
So what I'd like to do.
Go ahead.
What I want you to change. All right, all right. Now I have to say first, everyone, I'm poorly prepared here because I'm having trouble pulling up my document to read from. So let's just concentrate on the slides at the moment, and I'll have that all ready for next time. So Tina, if you'd like to advance to the next slides, I'm not going to read them. I think it would be good for everyone just to see them. Now, this was a very important quote that came to me several years ago. and I've used it on many occasions when I really needed to kick myself in the fanny and get going. So when my husband was diagnosed with the Alzheimer's verdict, this was a time that I really had to pull up my socks and get going. So next, please, Tina. This is the beautiful cover that Tina and her company have designed. And I was particularly thrilled because it's one of my own photographs that I took of my husband, Tony. And I hope that everyone feels the poignancy that I see when I look at this cover. Next, Tina, please. Next, please. Thank you. I have a Facebook page for Dear Braveheart. Oops, back up one, please. That's the one. Thank you. I have a Facebook page with a lot of followers on it. And this message came through from a very distraught husband who just couldn't seem to pull it all together. He was just at the end of his rope. And when I read it, particularly the last line, it says, I am also weak. I only hope my wife can forgive me for those times when I knew my mom in heaven would not be proud of me. That struck me as very odd. It struck me like the man has a lot of baggage that he's carrying and making his journey even more difficult. So I hope when he sees this presentation, he'll feel encouraged, as will other caregivers. Next, please, Tina. Can you see? That's a girl. There's no roadmap for this journey. I don't imagine anybody has been on it before, and we have no way of knowing where we're going or what's ahead of us. So how do we get there? Yes, Tina, thank you. There we are. Everybody needs to find their own way. We can't even imagine how to do things we've never done before. So I felt the most helpful situation for me was to join the Alzheimer's support group, or whatever support group you may have in your area. Everyone has their own ideas as they forge ahead, and we need to take hold of those and try them ourselves, lean on everyone's shoulder when we need it, and include our friends who want to help. That's it. Thank you. Oops. Why is this book for you? When I first started my journey with my husband, Tony, I felt that all the books I read, and there were many, were either too medical or too much like a text book, and it was frightening. I didn't find any appeal in them, and so I was a little bit discouraged. Then, of course, we've all been watching movies over the years that tug at our heartstrings. About 5 years ago, there was a real influx of movies on the subject, and you've probably seen some or all of them. And the first documentary I ever saw was produced in 2013 by Banker White in New York State, and his mother was Marion White, and she was a famous artist. So his journey followed her. The underlying theme, however, about all of these documentaries, books, and movies is love. Other way, Tina. Oh, here we are. Thank you. Sorry, okay. You're right. So Dear Braveheart is a love story chronicling one couple's journey through Alzheimer's disease. And the couple is my husband and me. It includes a lot of helpful hints I learned along the way, quite a lot of chuckles, and a few snuffles. It's a perfect gift, I think, for anyone caring for a loved one with dementia or, in fact, any other terminal illness. Here we are. The age-old recipe for a happy home, with a pinch of this and a shake of that, won't apply here. Everyone has their own ideas how a marriage should work, and you'll find that this time there will be plenty of trial and error in the mix. But it should be being on Golden Pond could be the adventure of your life. So I see there, Tina, we just have the first word of the slide.
Yes, I'm not sure why, but I think we also need to stop and return.
Okay.
I love your slides. I think they're beautiful. Yeah, but I think we need to go back and kind of wrap up.
Yes.
Because
there
we're getting,
we are.
there we are. We're getting close to Judy's. Oh, and Judy is here. Okay, so we've got. I was going to toss in a question so that you could see how that works. Glenda, can you ask a question? Great. Isabel has a question. Okay.
How did I balance writing about such a difficult subject while also keeping the book light and funny? Well, that's a terrific question. When I first started, it was little snippets that I was thinking, and I only wrote them at nighttime when my husband was in bed. That's the only time caregivers have to even think. And there were a lot of very humorous things that happened, not every day, but some days, that I thought would add some levity to a very difficult subject. And, we can't go through a storm with thunder and lightning every day. There has to be some sunshine. So I tried to bring this in for myself and for anybody who will read the book.
Okay, that's great. Great question, really. Okay, and we've got 3 minutes left. Isabel, if you'd like to comment on optics, please.
Yeah, it sounded really great, except for the echo, unfortunately. I'm not sure what can be done about that, though. But only when other people are speaking. It sounded good when you were speaking by yourself. Should we maybe get also some more light, or maybe just be more centered on your camera?
More centered. Is that better? Okay, good.
Yeah, it'll be about the same time of day when we actually do the production. And so the lighting is not going to change much. But I find, I guess this side, would be your right side.
Okay.
One side has a lot more light. Your hair has a lot more light. And I think it's coming from the window.
Near the window.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have a small curtain you could close, or?
Yeah, let me try.
We just diffuse the light a little bit more.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's softer. Then, yeah, that's great. There's more even distribution of light.
Okay, good.
Okay. And mics are really hard. Glenda and I have been through this so many times trying to troubleshoot where the echoes come from. Even something like a phone, if a phone is on, then sometimes that causes an interference. And then one time I had my son's computer I was working in a different room, and my son has a computer, and it was his computer that the sound was bouncing off of. So it's a really hard thing to troubleshoot. And if it happens, we're just going to go with it.
We can also, if Sherry wants to wants to connect with me privately, I can try a few things with her. One of the things that they suggest is that you use earbuds or headphones, and that often will reduce the feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have like the YouTube open in a different tab or something?
No, but actually I had my other computer on, so I'm going to turn that off.
Yeah, that's what it would
because
be.
I thought,
If you mute it, yeah,
Okay.
even if you just mute it, that would be enough. That could have been the
Okay,
cause.
so
Thank you, Isabel.
okay, so I'll do that, and I think maybe because of
That's
time,
good.
I'll cut out a few slides, or maybe I won't even read them. Maybe I'll just read my comments.
But you'll
that'll
have
be
longer time, Sherry. You'll have
Yeah.
longer time at the actual event. You'll have at least 20 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so today we were just making short
Yeah.
sessions just to get the feeling of StreamYard and YouTube and
Right.
yeah. Okay, great.
Okay,
And you're welcome.
Okay,
Tina?
so thanks, Sherry. I'm going to remove you from the stream, but you'll still be here if you want to continue watching, and I'm going to be bringing Judy on in a second. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
ladies.
you.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, now we've got waiting in the wings is Judy Merle, and I'm just going to once again pretend that we're going live because that's what will happen during the author's actual session. This is Glenda McDonald, the Story Finder, and we're just doing a practice session for the authors who will be presenting at the Ontario Library Association Annual Conference. And now I'm going to pass it over. I'm going to introduce Judy to the stream. Now her photo does not seem to be appearing, so I'm not sure what's going on there. If she has her webcam disabled. Judy, can you say something so at least we'll know if we can hear you?
I am here.
Okay, were you going, oh, there we go. Okay, did you, I see something's there. Are you going to turn on your webcam?
I usually just click the button and it starts.
Okay. You may have to enable something within StreamYard there just to say allow. There's probably a button up top somewhere that is asking you to allow the use of your webcam.
It says start camera.
Okay.
But that's where I just get the line across. Oh, maybe there's
Okay.
some little dots. Stop, edit, remove.
No.
I don't use this program, so I don't know what to look for.
Yeah, there's usually somewhere in I don't know if it would be under cam and mic at the bottom. There might be, if you go under camera, it'll tell you which camera it's using from your computer. And I don't know if that helps. General settings. Yeah, there's got to be somewhere there where, and you know, if worse come to worse and we have to do it without your face on there, I can put your book cover up anyways, so at least that's something. I'm going to just change that now. While we're talking here, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to put the Crossfield logo back up.
I wonder if Judy left the studio and came back in.
That's a good idea.
And then enabled the camera and the mic. Do you want to give that a try, Judy?
I see it lists 2 different cameras here.
There we go. We got it.
I just keep pushing buttons until something works.
Okay, so I'm going to just backtrack a little bit. Now that we've got it here, we're going to just pretend that we're going live again. So this is Glenda McDonald, the Story Finder. This is my personal YouTube channel, which I use for training authors and working with the publishers to prepare live author events. What we're doing today, and we'll also be doing again tomorrow if you care to attend the next session, is preparing 3 authors for the Ontario Library Association Super Conference, which is taking place the first week of February. We have actually 7 author presentations taking place there. They will be streaming from the Crossfield Publishing YouTube channel, and I will be promoting the links to each of the individual author presentations that can be shared through social media through both Tina Crossfield and author accounts. Now I'm going to take a step back and we're going to pretend we're starting again, and I'm going to pass it to Tina, who's then going to have Isabel read the land acknowledgement, and pretend that we're just starting going live right now. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, live.
Welcome to the Crossfield Publishing booth at the Ontario Library Association virtual conference. Before I introduce our next author, Judy Merle, I'd like our colleague Isabel to read the land agreement, please.
Yes, thank you, Tina. So, as part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Canada, we'd like to acknowledge with gratitude and respect the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Waki, and Attawandarock nations. May we honor their teachings.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to introduce Judy Merle. Let's see. Since childhood, Judy has been a family historian and amateur genealogist. With an extensive database of family lines, she connects people with their cultural heritage as she continues to research her own Indigenous, French, and German ancestors. As well, Judy is committed to reclaiming and sharing Indigenous arts such as drumming, beading, leatherwork, and language. It was her love of music which led her to form a drum group, Sisters of the Drum, who through engagement with the community have been promoting unity and healing for 20 years. The group has traveled through Ontario, northern US, and has produced three CDs of traditional hand drum medicine. Judy lives with her husband Paul in southeastern Ontario. In this, her first novel, Wabanang, she weaves her love of storytelling, genealogy, and Indigenous wisdom to give a glimpse of the past while opening the door to the future. She is also a mother of 3 and grandmother to 8. Okay, and now, Judy, it's over to you. You have about 8 minutes, and then these sessions are a little bit shorter than the ones that will be at the real event. So this is to give you a taste of speaking on camera and talking about your book.
Kwe. Aikwe manadu nindishnakas, bakwa duadam shabata bajuan nindinjaba. Good morning. Wow, that was a great start, because if I didn't already know this book, I'd want to read it just from what you're telling me about it. My name is Judy. My people call me Spirit Woman. And I didn't start off wanting to write a book. I started off just taking a writing class, thinking it would help me to write music for our drum group. And the teacher at some point said, now take the paragraph that you've written and make it into a novel. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't do that. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about writing about something that I knew about searching for people that you can't find. That was my premise behind the book. And so I decided to write from the idea of an Indigenous girl who's looking for her ancestors. And so I just wanted to read you this little piece set in the Northern Ontario wilderness in 1876. So the book is called Wabanang. The word means morning star. And this is the name of the ancestor that we're searching for during this novel. And these are her beginnings. A baby's piercing cry sliced the darkness, echoed off the tall pine trees on the edge of the meadow. Deep in the heart of the forest, Kokoho turned her great head towards the sound and blinked her yellow eyes. Who, she asked to no one in particular. Mahingan halted mid-step at the base of a wide oak tree upon which the owl was perched. He lifted his head, scented the mouse that he had been following, and something else, something human in the distance. Silently, he abandoned the mouse and padded northeast towards the sound. The man had paused on the edge of the forest clearing, a small cabin hidden in the covering of ice and snow at his back. He was dressed in deerskin, topped with a cloak of beaver fur. One long, dark braid hung over his right shoulder. He was tall and lean. His face appeared chiseled in the same granite as the surrounding hillside, with high cheekbones above a long, hooked nose. Although his dark eyes were hooded against the cold, he took no notice of the temperature. Above him, 1,000,000 sparkling stars decorated the night sky like seed beads on black leather. One in particular caught his eye, the dog star called by some tribes, or the morning star. It seemed to wink at him from the dark background of eternity. The moon, in its descent towards the new day, cast the man's shadow on a thick layer of snow around his high leather moccasins. For a moment, the man stood motionless, tiny in relation to the vastness of creation. His breath hung thick and white in the air around him, as if his spirit was on fire. In his left hand, he held a naked infant, and lifting her up to the sky, presented her to all of creation. He locked his eyes on the morning star high above them while he chanted the song passed down to him by his father's father's father. Miigwech, Great Spirit. Miigwech, Mother of all things. Pewete, this newborn, is Minnegowan, a gift sent to us by the ancestors. His voice was strong and deep. His words seemed to grow wings and soar towards the heaven. When he felt the infant gather breath for another shrill cries, he drew her quickly into his robes for warmth and nuzzled her small head against his chin. Into her tiny ear he whispered, Wabanong. In the tradition of his people, that the child should be the first to hear her name spoken. Then he announced to all of creation, to Grandmother Moon, those ancestors watching above, the standing people all around, the four-leggeds and the flyers, that a daughter had been born to the Anishinaabe people, and she had a name, Wabanong, Morning Star. The encroaching wolf paused again. From his vantage point on the clear, smooth rock at the crest of the hill, he could clearly see the man standing in the snow. As the strange melody lingered in the air, Mehingan lifted his face to the moon and joined in the song. When he turned again to look into the meadow, the man was gone. So in this little excerpt from the book called Wabanong, we get a feel of the beginnings of her lifetime, where she was born in the wilderness, and the book will go on to tell about how her parents met and how she grew up in the woods, and a little bit about the fur trade, a little bit about residential school, and how this family fell apart and then were knit back together again because of a granddaughter's desire to know who her grandmother was.
Thank you, Judy. That was wonderful. I really enjoy your reading. It's so descriptive and so vivid. I just have all kinds of images in my head. Very, very well done. There is a question that's been posted on YouTube. Actually, I posted it, but just recently we've completed the title for Wabanong, and the title that will appear on the book on the cover is an Anishinaabe Granddaughter's Search for the Truth, which is a very fitting subtitle for how you explained what we will find in the book, and how how the story was created. I'm talking off my
Unfolds.
coattails now. Unfolds.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to comment on the title?
Well, we gave our grandchildren Indigenous names when they were born, and my oldest granddaughter's name is Morning Star. Her name is Wabanang Anokiwaki, so Morning Star of the gathering place. And so I borrowed her name. Actually, I wanted to call the book Full Moon, but there's so much written in the book about the actual moon that I was confusing myself as to what we were talking about. And so I borrowed her name, and she's quite pleased that that she thinks this book, she's 15 now, she thinks the book is about her. And if you look at the book cover, the girl on the actual cover is my other granddaughter. So my daughter's daughter and my son's daughter, both involved in this particular book. So it seems I have to write another book to be able to include all the other grandchildren. Because I'm a genealogist and because I'm constantly looking for people, not only my own people, which is where I started out, but I have people send me emails almost every day about, do you know this name? Can you tell me where they lived? Can you connect me with some family members? And I love doing that. I tell my daughter, I've gone down the rabbit hole again, because somebody will send me a name and I'll spend a whole day looking for her people. And so it's something I'm passionate about. And when they tell you to write a book about something that you know, and I just listened to the last lady talking about her husband and the trials and tribulations that she's had. She's written about something that she knows about. And I wanted to put a little bit of genealogy into this book, as well as a search for Indigenous history. So I've tried to include some ceremonies, some of the Anishinaabe-Moan language, and I'm not a fluent speaker by any means. And a few personal stories that I've woven into this transcript, and nobody will ever know they're there except me. So it's been an interesting job writing this book. It's been so interesting. I've started a new one.
Oh gosh, that's great. Yeah, we may ask you that same question next week, because that was a very good explanation of the title. And I love the daughter's daughter and the son's daughter. No, wait.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I love that. That makes the books have such a personal feel, a closeness to it, which is just awesome.
Well, you may not get the same answer next week.
That's okay. But I feel that you're very comfortable speaking, and you look relaxed.
I like to answer questions. I don't especially like to talk about myself, but if you ask me a question, I'll answer it. And I do a lot of storytelling for schools on Zoom. Like, I use Zoom. I don't know this program, but I hope now my Zoom works now that I have my camera set up for something else.
It should be fine.
Okay.
It'll be fine. I go back and forth all the time.
Okay, good.
Different platforms. So I'm going to bring Isabel back here. Isabel is our publishing intern. She started this week. She hit the ground running. And before I ask Isabel about her optics, I was wondering, Judy, if you could help her with the pronunciation of those two words. let me find them
In the
again.
land acknowledgement?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
never done one before.
We usually say Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. I'm not quite sure what the words were that you were using.
Okay.
Here, I can send them in the chat.
Okay, I don't even know what that second word is.
No, I didn't either.
So
I looked it up and it is a correct word. So
Yeah, I got this from Rick actually. Anishinaabe and Atuwanderuk.
Rick is all over the place. Like he's here and out to BC and back. Who knows where Rick's gonna pick up some language? This could be Cree or it could be Iroquois.
Yeah,
Tina,
he found
Tina,
it
do you have a local library? Because usually what happens is if the library has done any live streaming and they're close to where you live, they will have the official wording.
Yes, but I think Rick, I think probably went to a map and then found exactly where I live and then tracked it down. So,
well, that could be because I talk about this area, right? And here we have the Anishinaabe who have come from the Ottawa River, and we have the Haudenosaunee who have come up from New York State, and we're on two sides of Lake Ontario. And so we would talk about the people who live in this area. I'm not even quite sure where you are, except you're on the other side of Toronto somewhere.
Somewhere, yes.
Somewhere over there.
Kind of near Stratford, yeah.
So
okay.
That's a good question.
I will check that out again with the local library because I've done that once before. And so, Isabel, do you have any comments on optics for Judy?
No, it looked really good. It sounded really good. I wouldn't change it.
Great.
I'm wondering about maybe wearing a solid color. I have a lot of stuff. And should I be in another room? I don't know.
No, I think
your background is interesting.
It's very interesting.
These are all
I
things
think
that
suits the topic.
I've made.
It's beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Occasionally there's a bit more light. I think probably from your window. Yeah. Is there a way you can damp the light down a little bit?
Do you have like a little sheer curtain or something?
I'll work on that. I just thought the more light the better.
Yeah,
it depends on where it lands on your skin, because then it's reflecting on your face.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, my light could totally change too if the sun comes through my window.
Yeah, I think the lighting looked fine though.
Okay.
Overall.
I can't close that curtain, but I can cover up the window.
That looks actually, I'm not sure if the light's coming from in front of you. Do you have an overhead light in the room?
I do.
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's reflecting over your head, on the top of your hair, and on your cheekbones, and on your
head. There you go.
So I don't know. Do you have a dimmer on that light?
No.
Do you have another a table lamp you could maybe put on the table beside you instead of using an overhead light? I brought Sherry back in because we were going to, when we're finished, we'll just test her mic again and see how that goes. Yeah. And she's hung around. So she's welcome to be back in. If Phyllis was still here, I'd put her back in, but I think she's a pro at this, so she's moved along.
Wow. That lamp works over there and not over here.
Yeah, and don't go by my lighting because I've got this big light here, but I'm mostly out of the picture. So
I think it was
better. That's a little too dark now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was better before. Yeah.
Okay, go back to the original.
Okay, let's go back to the original.
It's fine.
Yes, we'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just, I don't know if we want to, are we done with Judy's session? I just thought we could maybe give Sheridan a chance to just talk again and see how her mic is.
Sure.
She'll have to unmute herself.
Okay, you can stay on, Judy, if you like.
Yeah, just before Judy goes, behind her shoulder under the window, she's got a blue plastic crate. And the background is so pretty. Take that crate down, Judy.
I think there's another one. I think, are there two of them, or there's another turquoise thing on top of, over like on the shelf? I can't tell what
Is it a pillow? Maybe it's a
turquoise
pillow.
at the very back in the left corner on the shelf. What's that turquoise thing? Is that part of your art? There's another very broad, over to yeah. There, that looks better.
Hey, okay, yes.
Oh, that looks good. Because also, that's very good, Sherry, because the turquoise, I didn't even notice it, but you're right. The turquoise was so prominent that it was making our eyes look away from Judy.
Yeah, no, that looks really good now.
Judy's moved her chair again, so you got to go back to, you always have to think about your trying to be a little bit more in the center of the screen. You're off there. There we go. That's good. There, that's good.
The screen is different when I work with school classes in here. Your screen is quite a bit larger than what I'm used to. So you're getting all kinds of stuff back there that is not usually in my pictures.
It looks fine. It's very nice.
Okay.
And Sherry, I think your mic seems to be a bit better now. Isabel, what do you think? Is there still some feedback? No, there's still some feedback.
There's still some feedback.
So have you got a pair of earbuds that you can try, Judy, Sherry?
No, I don't. Nothing else on in here. Hang on just 1 second. We'll try this. Hang on.
It sounds fine when it's just her speaking, though.
Maybe because I'm in a corner?
No.
Could it be echoing off the corner?
It sounds better now.
Okay.
Oh no, okay. You know what it is? I think it has to do with how close you are to the mic. Because when you sit back, it seems to be an echo. Or when you sit closer, like when you try closer versus back, it seems to be affecting the reverb.
So this is better here? Hello.
I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It might just help if you wear earphones.
She doesn't have any.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's one of those things. Tina and I did an entire presentation once where her mic was doing that and there was nothing we could do. And there have been other times where something's gone wonky, where someone has had their YouTube on in another room and they didn't even know. And there's so much reverb. It's like boom, bada, boom, bada, boom, like echo, echo, echo of echo of echo. And it's very disconcerting. But the thing is that when you're going live, people know that things are not perfect. And that's the charm of being live. We could pre-record all of this and edit stuff out, but then it wouldn't be live and it would lose all the charm. So I'm going to just leave it now to Tina to close off the session. And when she's ready, we'll just all wave goodbye and I'll end the broadcast. And it is available on YouTube. It automatically records. There's also YouTube also does a transcript. I think I'm getting reverb now for some reason. But YouTube adds a transcript automatically. It may not be correct spelling and everything, but if you want to remind yourself of what was said during a particular session, it is a record there. They just use the Google Voice to text. Okay, so I'm going to step away and Tina can, I'll just wave goodbye and I'm going to remove myself.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for participating. I think this was a great practice session. We've come such a long way to when we first started doing these virtual events. It's been quite a ride, actually. But I do want to say thank you, and I look forward to our real event, which is going to take place next Thursday and Friday. and also looking forward to tomorrow's 15-minute sessions with our 4 other authors. So I'm going to sign off for now. Thanks, Glenda.
Yeah,
thank you.
just one
Isabel.
last question, Tina and Isabel, and anybody else who wants to hang around in the green room afterwards. When I end the broadcast, we can still talk to each other behind the scenes without it being live. And I have a question for Isabel. So if we're ready now, I'm going to say also thank you to everybody, and join us again tomorrow if you like. And the link for the event should be in upcoming events on my YouTube channel here. And we'll be in touch with the links for the actual live events in February. Thanks very much, everybody, and goodbye now.